Angela, we are live.
Thank you. I would request the audience to please kindly keep your microphones on mute so that there's very little disturbance. Yes, we are ready to start. Good afternoon, all of you, and welcome to the webinar on World CSR Day, observed today, Corporate Social Responsibility. Three very important terms. The term, of course, has generated renewed interest in the aftermath of the amended Companies Act, that contributing to social and environmental causes, sustainable development in general, should not be deemed an option, but a responsibility of also the corporate stakeholders of the country. This amended Companies Act clearly outlined. It was made mandatory that CSR be seen as a management concept that integrates social and environmental concerns in the business operations of these corporates. In its endeavor towards meeting the sustainable development goals, the corporate world today has devised innovative technologies and strategies to fulfill these goals. But is the dream towards a sustainable future heading towards the envisioned path, or whether the concept of inclusive welfare state still remains far from reality? To discuss on such constitutional welfare state and the constitutional obligations of the corporate world, where is it failing and what is the way out? We have with us today Learning Registrar Mr. Shubhayu Banerjee of the East Zone Bench. Thank you so much, Mr. Banerjee, for taking out time from your very busy schedule to be with us today. We are extremely grateful that you're here with us. To give the audience a brief intro of Mr. Banerjee's immense expertise and experience, after completion of LLB from South Calcutta Law College, affiliated to Calcutta University, he joined the High Court at Calcutta in the year 2002, started practicing there as an advocate, appeared for the examination for the cadre of district judge entry level under the category of direct recruitment from bar in the year 2013, and upon succeeding in the same, joined the service in the cadre of district judge entry level in 2014. After completion of a period of training, he was posted as the additional district and sessions judge, third court Bardwan, which was also a special court under the provisions of NDPS Act. Thereafter, he was transferred and joined as additional district and session judge, 7th Court Parashat, not 24 Patinas, joined the National Green Tribunal East Zone Bench, Kolkata, on deputation as Registrar Counsel. Thank you so much. We are very much looking forward to this session today. And students, of course, we are here from different departments, the law department especially, and I'm sure all of you will have a lot of questions to ask our speaker. Please do write your questions down in the chat box, and we will take up those questions during the questions in the interaction round, which will be moderated by our head of the Department of SNU Law Department, Professor and Dr. Debashri Mukherjee. Thank you so much to all of you for being here with us today once again this afternoon. Without further ado, I would straight away get into the event, and I would request our Honorable Vice Chancellor of Sister Nivedita University, Professor Dr. Dhruvatiti Chattopadhyay, to offer the welcome address. Sir?
Good evening, everybody.
Sir, you're audible? Yes. You're audible, but we can't see you.
I'm trying to do that because let me first welcome Mr. Banerjee for accepting our invitation for such a short period of time, and you have accepted it, and that is really appreciable. And we, on behalf of all the students as well as the faculty members and the staff members, we really want to thank you for your nice gesture. Now, you know that when we talk about this corporate social responsibility, CSR, this particular term, I got used to it, I think, a couple of years back, but nowadays the students are all knows about it, but earlier we normally used to tell it in a completely different fashion. Now we know that it's a self-regulating business model that helps a company be socially accountable to itself, its stakeholders, and the public. So now it is somewhat the things which are going to make these particular business things, business personalities to be accountable, that they have to do something for the society. Now, as important as CSR is for the community, it is equally valuable for a company. Because many a times when a couple of students, if you can just mute your mic, please. Orghodeep, Srija, Rishabh.
I'm muting all from my end.
Yeah.
Those who are the speakers can unmute themselves.
Yes. Thank you. Because it's easier right now. Now, as I'm mentioning, that CSR is also equally valuable for a company. The CSR activities can help to forge a stronger bond between the employees and corporations, and it boosts up morale and help both employees and employers to feel more connected with the world around them. Now, I just wanted to mention that there are various approaches to CSR. Firstly, as I mentioned to you, the employee morale boosting. The another approach is philanthropy. The third approach is to incorporate the CSR directly into operations. Now, creating shared value is yet another approach of CSR, wherein short-term profits are not looked into, but rather importance is given to the shareholders and customers. The CSR is also adopted to transform the business model. I want to end my comments because we are all expecting and eagerly waiting to hear from Mr. Banerjee that most consumers, they agree that while achieving the business targets, companies should engage in CSR efforts at the same time. The consumers also believe that retailers setting local products will gain loyalty, and this they believe that marketing local products will gain consumer trust. However, environmental efforts, this particular term I just wanted to mention to you, how environmental efforts are receiving negative views given the belief that this would affect customer service. Now, there are a number of things, and there are organizations that says a program on the triple bottom line, TBL approach, which looks like a successful tool for SMEs. But all the time, I want to keep everybody aware of the fact that at this time, when we are talking about the sustainability, the CSIR should actually couple itself with the sustainable growth and how to keep it on, which will help to make this particular program a real successful. With these brief words, I really looking forward to hear Mr. Banerjee.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for giving a brief intro and taking us through that process. Thank you so much. I would straight away go to the speaker, Mr. Banerjee, and the floor is all yours. Please, the session that we've all been waiting for.
First of all, am I audible to everybody?
Yes, clearly. Yes, thank you.
At least now I am audible. There are technical impediments far too many which had to be overcome. Anyway, right now, fully I am audible. To begin with, I must say that I am indeed honored and a distinguished person like Dr. Chattopadhyay is among my audience. It is indeed a matter of great honor for me as well. And I'm grateful to the law faculties, the law department, and all my listeners and my dear students. Let me begin my speech. At the outset, let me tell you something that am I audible?
Yes, yes. You were just disconnected, but then yes, it's clear. Yes.
The fact remains is that hopefully a large chunk of my students belong to the UG level or the PG level. That can you illuminate me whether they belong to the UG level or the PG level?
Sir, they are from both UG as well as PG levels.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me begin by saying, my dear students, because you mostly students are my target audience, the aspect of corporate social responsibility is a very recent vintage. It needs to be admitted that the element of corporate responsibility was embedded in Companies Act since long, but it did not have the legislative sanction. It was felt that the aspect of corporate social responsibility would be bestowed to the company for the reason that when the companies are earning from society, they need to give back something to society. But as you know, the earlier Companies Act was framed in, or rather was given effect sometime in the year 1957 because it was enacted in the year 1956. So at that point of time, there were many issues which was not even, I would say that which was not even born. And as a result, taking such factors into account or factoring in such aspects was never felt at that point of time. So that was the reason that this element of corporate social responsibility was incorporated under the provisions of Section 135 in the present Companies Act, which was framed or rather given effect to in the year 2030. Lots of deliberations have gone before that, and lots of deliberations still goes on till today as to how effective this CSR initiative can be made. My dear students, let me tell you one thing, that I am indeed an invitee here, but it would be a fallacy to think that I am more knowledgeable than your teachers, because your teachers knows much better, and they are your regular teachers who actually tutored you on various aspects of company law, the constitutional empowerment, and all similar legislative impacts. But for a people like me who work more on the practical field, my role is just like a whiff of fresh air into your mundane life of academic existence, wherein I shall only be highlighting certain issues which are normally faced real life. That is what is more important, because all the theoretical dynamics are amply imparted by your qualified teachers, and they are the ones who teach you what are the essence of the law and what to write in order to pass the exam. Anyway, let me come back to the topic, apart from mouthing such things. Let me highlight only one case. It would be extremely boring for a lecturer like me, who is not essential an academic, to go on stating as to what are the elements of particular sections of an act, or if I go on citing certain Supreme Court cases. Let me go straight into the topic by a different method. First, let me ask you a very simple thing. What do you mean by the word corporate? Have you seen the film Corporate? Are you aware of any film having been ever made which is named Corporate? Yes or no? You can unmute and give me a reply whether you know this aspect, that whether ever any film has been made by the name Corporate. Yes or no? this is the perhaps one of the difficult aspect of technology, because it sometimes becomes a monologue, and I fail to appreciate whether students
Sir.
are.
Shoumi Banerjee has replied that yes, sir.
Yes, then please ask Shoumi another question, that does she know who was the director of the film? Okay, let her answer.
Madhur
through the
Bhandarkar,
chat
that's
box.
what she says.
Madhur Bhandarkar.
Bhandarkar.
Correct. Now, when we look up or we hear of the word corporate, we fancy a dream that it would be looking like the headquarter, very resembling your university structure. The exact workings of a corporate is quite different, and it has much to do with floor level working. I use the term floor level working, and that is the exact area where one needs to excel in order to gain a corporate recognition or a toehold in the corporate world. Now, what does this corporate means, and what essentially it means in relation to CSR or corporate social responsibility? The moment I state the word corporate, don't go on imagining the huge buildings with a very good glass facade, the air conditioners, and the facilities inside the office of coffee machines and all similar facilities. The exact working of a corporate is much more laborious, and those who are on the job indeed need to work overtime to overcome many impediments which are unheard of or even unthought of or not even perceived at times. Now, why a registrar of National Green Tribunal has been roped in? Since I have been roped in my official capacity, I would try to highlight certain issue which, as the registrar, or rather being almost a representative of National Green Tribunal, we normally face. Why this had to be roped in? Why this particular concept of corporate social responsibility had to be coined and had to be incorporated in the legislation itself? That itself will speak a lot about many things. Let me make you acquaint with a word, the name of a place called Plachimada, or rather we in wrong English say Plachimada. Have you ever heard of this word? Plachimada, Plachimada, or Plachimada, as you say. You can reply in your chat room through the chat mode. Anyone of you have heard? Correct. Now let me tell you what Plachimada, or rather why Plachimada is so famous. If you surf the net stating only Plachimada case, you will come to know the facts. Now let me state the facts before you. What are the facts that led to this very representative case, or rather a similar cases of similar ilk, which form the basis of incorporation of this legislation? Incorporation of this legislation called corporate social responsibility. Let me tell you, Plachimada is a very small area in the southern part of India, which came under a panchayat area. One of the cold drinks giant, after entering India, wanted to set up a giant integrated plant for sourcing, manufacturing, and bottling of its cold drinks. One of such large plant was set up in Plachimada area. This happened long back. It took some time for the particular company, or rather the particular factory, to go on stream. And thereafter, the company started distributing the products from that particular plant. Over a period of time, say within a year or so, the area which was predominantly an agricultural area, suddenly the farmers realized that the groundwater level is depleting, and depleting to such a level that they are finding it difficult to source water for their daily agriculture. Daily agriculture, this term is essentially a term from the books of agricultural economics. Daily agriculture means like pouring water, irrigating large tracts of land, and using the water for other purpose of manure and cattle feeding and every other aspects. Not only was the quality of the water getting degraded, what was happening was that the groundwater level was depleting at such an alarming rate that even after delving deep almost 100 feet below the normal ground level, one was not finding the quality of water that could be used for irrigating the lands. The water became brackish, a little bit saltish, and of course high in acidic content, which resulted in the crops getting destroyed. Now, the question arose as to how this could happen. Investigations, agitations, and everything followed, and it dawned later that the ostensible reason for this is the extraction of water, of groundwater rather, by the authorities of the cold drinks factory. Now, probably whether you know or you don't know, I don't know. Let me highlight one aspect. You are perhaps aware with a process of purification called reverse osmosis. Are you aware of that reverse osmosis method, RO method of water purification? Do you have water purifiers at your home having this RO, employing RO method? Yes or no? Answer in the chat room. Right. So RO method is a very well-known method and everybody uses it. But do you know, for preparing or rather purifying 1 liter of water in the RO method, around at least 3 liters of waters are wasted. So altogether, 1 liter of quality water means you are actually consuming 4 liters of water, of which 3 liters remains or just becomes unusable. So that's the rate of water that was being extracted to produce purified bottled water which you buy from the wayside panwala dukans. Now, when it dawned that such level of extraction, huge groundwater was being extracted to produce purified bottled water which otherwise appeared to be good for health, was actually becoming the cause of health hazard or production hazard for a large area spread over large, at least 5 taluks. 5 taluks means 5 villages. And not only that, it is not only spoiling the quality of agricultural produce, it had the prospect of creating a period of famine of not less than 5 years, because these groundwater or the aquifer, as we say, gets recharged by rainwater. That is the natural process. And it would take years to get it recharged to the level as it was prior to the commencement of operation of the company. In addition to that, there was the manufacture of cold drinks which you eat on a daily basis. What happens then? These cold drinks also, the basic element is purified water, because after all, one would not like to get dysentery after drinking a cold drinks. A good bottle of cold drinks gives you enough calorie, and at the same time, it needs to be ensured that you don't contract any infection which could harm your health overall. So that meant that the amount of water that is being used also had to be free from impurities. And this, in order to ensure uniform quality throughout the country or throughout the areas of distribution, the same method is to be adopted, and this RO method had to be adopted on a large scale. So you imagine, for preparing 1000 liters of cold drinks, almost 3000 liters of waters were getting wasted. Wasted means, now the question may arise, my dear students, you might tell me that what sir do you mean by wasted? Such water can be used for other purposes. Yes and no. Both the answer lies in both ways. It is just like two sides of a coin. Yes, indeed, you get water. That is yes. So it can be used. But it can be used for restrictive purposes, because once this water gets rejected from the RO process, its acidic content increases to such a level, it becomes unfit for any types of secondary use on materials, which ultimately would go for human consumption. That is, for the agricultural purpose is being one of them. Such water cannot be used as an industrial input in the preparation of any chemical, which could form an input in respect of preparation of a medicine also. Now, why am I highlighting this? This is something very important. Why am I highlighting this? Incidents such as this and many, which you will see by searching MC Mehta cases, which went on for quite some time, you will come to know that what exactly formed the basis of building up such terms or incorporating the use of section 135, which essentially which essentially meant incorporating the relevant rules also, which are known as Companies Corporate Social Responsibility Rules 2014. And the areas where CSR spends are to be made are also enumerated in Schedule 7, if I have not made a mistake. Correctly, just verify from the relevant statute. Now, in order to buttress my point, let me tell you that what was perhaps the need to incorporate? Wasn't the companies responsible? If you look at the global scenario, you will find many aspects which are evolving in the last 1 decade or so. For example, even if an Indian company needs to become an input supplier, exporter to a foreign country, the foreign country, or rather the company based in the foreign shores, needs to ensure that the Indian entity which would be exporting and they would be importing from them, the Indian company follows certain statutory safeguards in conformity with the ultimate end product regime and the laws prevailing at that country, so that the product can be marketed there, the product can be distributed there, the product can be consumed there. For example, say a company engaged in the production of, or rather manufacturing of durries, drugs and all these things, sources a part of its manufacturing produce from India. It needs to ensure that there are no child labor involved, and the dye, probably, I don't know whether you know the aspect of dye, means the color that is being used, that is a green color, I mean eco-friendly color, because it contains chemicals, and if chemicals are to be mixed by bare hands, there is every possibility that such aspect of usage could result in a major damage of the skin, as well as it will damage the water resources of the particular area as well. So the safety network has to be spread that wide to ensure that right from the source of manufacturing to the end process of sale, all the safeguards are put in place and complied with in an even and uniform manner. It would be very pertinent to mention that corporate social responsibility is otherwise not something of a recent origin. The overall negligence, the element of vicarious liability, all were in existence much before. But now, the element of corporate social responsibility have come into being with renewed vigor, I should say. What can be contributed to such aspect of renewed vigor? What do you mean by that? This is a concept emanating from the polluter pays, or rather the person causing the pollution, causing the infringement would be liable to pay. That forms the basic aspect of such type of legislation. If you go through the elements of Companies Act, you will find that not all companies are required to follow the CSR regime. There are certain minimum financial standards that has been incorporated. Now, this has a logic. The presumption behind this is that the companies which have sufficiently large operation, a company sufficiently large in size, since in a public forum, I am not supposed to use any brand name or the name of the company so that it might have certain intellectual property issues. But I would like to tell you certain things in this regard, that if you see that you are using a particular brand which is used pan-India, that means that company has sufficient presence all over India. So the product that is in use will impact greater lives. Now, in order to effect such type of production, a greater environmental peril can be caused. That has to be contained. And it is not only in respect of environmental peril. If you go through the schedule, the elements of Schedule 7 in details, it will become amply clear that the areas where the CSR spends are likely to be made by a company. That doesn't preclude that the companies which do not come under the financial threshold, or rather the financial parameter, ought not to follow any CSR safeguards. I would say that these are called CSR safeguards. Because corporate social responsibility ultimately stems from a certain element of duty towards the nation. If I may ask, my dear students, all of you are aware about the fundamental rights, correct? Yes or no? In the chat box, please. Now you tell me, now if I tell you that whether you have a constitutional duty towards your nation, is it embedded in the constitution? Yes or no? I'm waiting for your answer. Yes or no? And if it is no, then it's all right. If it is yes, state where it belongs. No answer. What does the teacher say? Don't you have a duty when you say that you have fundamental rights which are essential, you are born with it? Trinoyani Sarkar says that it is yes. Then you tell me where in the constitution will you find it? Where in the constitution will you find the element of duty as enshrined in the constitution itself? Please. Anybody? In the chat box?
Yes,
I'm following the chat box. Article 14. Trinoyani says Article 14. Anybody else with a different answer? Arup Mukherjee says Article 57A. Okay. And anybody else? I will take at least 2 more answers. I'm ready to take at least 2 more answers. No more answers. Students, please participate. Whether do you have any fundamental duty towards your state? Is it enshrined in the constitution? The answer was yes. Correct. Exactly. Soumitra Chakraborty says Article 51A. Yes. This is something which we know we don't study at all. This actually forms the basis. If you go to Article 51A, sub-article G, what is written over there? Do anybody of you have a constitution in front of you? Anybody have a constitution in front of you? Can anybody be unmuted? If the person who has, I would request the moderator to kindly unmute that particular person so that Article 51A sub-article G can be read out.
Who's wanting to speak?
Yeah.
Whom do I need to allow? Trinayani Sharkar. Okay, fine.
Please read out
Just a
sub-article
moment. Just a
G.
moment. Yes, Trinayani.
Yes, sir. Article 51A, fundamental duties.
Correct. Read out only G, sub-article G.
Yes, sir. Subarticle G, to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, and wildlife, and to have compensation for living creatures.
Correct. Now, please mute yourself. First of all, let me correct you. While reading, you have said it's compassion for living creatures. Huh? Anyway, that's a very minor error. Anyway, so this particular article is hardly, I should say, I'm very sorry to say, is hardly read by any citizen. Wherever I go, I highlight this article because whatever you are getting from the state, you know, but what you are required to give by law to the state, we are hardly aware of. If you take employment in any office, in any corporate entity, you go there, you ask what would be my salary, what would be my days of leave, what are the other medical and ancillary benefits I'll be getting. But nobody says that I am willing to work overtime, I am willing to contribute to this company's overall health. Nobody says that I am actually willing to contribute towards the overall financial health of the company. What I mean to say is that it is not in relation to a company. In a state where you are living, it is your duty, your fundamental duty to keep your surroundings clean, your surroundings hygienic. From morning to evening, if you inhale obnoxious smoke, your lungs, your well-being, your overall health, everything would be suffering. And probably whether you are aware of it or not, I don't know, that the element of smell, noise, and overall environment contributes highly to the lack of fertility also, in addition to other major health hazards. So what qualitative decline in fertility can take place is that there would be disability. There would be a high degree of disability, which would result in a major portion of the population becoming crippled or becoming totally dependent upon the state. Do you know the scenario post-Bhopal tragedy? Post-Bhopal tragedy, those born during the period between 1985 to 1989, almost 60% of the population are in existence with certain aspect of disability in varying degrees. Such was the enormity of Bhopal gas tragedy. All these factors were taken into consideration, and the constitutional aspect of fundamental duties were considered in its entirety to frame a legislation to incorporate this aspect of Section 135, wherein the element of corporate social responsibility were included, and a bounden duty has been cast upon the companies to do the needful when it comes to the aspect of maintaining, preserving, as well as sustaining various levels of hygiene and safeguards for the betterment of society. It is not only that, corporate social responsibility encompasses a larger area as well. Since I belong to the genre of environmental brigade, it is better that I restrict myself primarily on this. I am dwelling on other aspects as well. But at the same time, I would like to tell you, when you go through the particular schedule, say Schedule 7, as if I may read out a few portions over there, there are other aspects as well. if you go to Schedule 7 of Companies Act 2013, which has been amended up to date, if you go through clause 3 over there, it promotes gender equality, empowers women, setting up homes and hostels for women and orphans, setting up old age homes, daycare centers, and all these aspects come under CSR. If you go through section 4, or rather clause 4, ensuring environmental sustainability, ecological balance, protection of flora and fauna, animal welfare, agroforestry, conservation of natural resources, and maintaining quality of soil, air, and water, including contribution to the Clean Ganga Fund set up by the central government for the rejuvenation of river Ganga. All these are recent inclusions. Why this has been done? Now, you draw a parallel between the Thames River of England and Ganga River of India. If you go over there, it is not that the European nations and the Western countries as a whole are absolutely clean and there is nothing called health hazard or environmental hazard. All these are reality. All these are indeed a reality in all parts of the world. It is something synonymous with development. This conflict between development and environmental purity would be there forever so long as human civilizations exist. But what is needed is, in essence, a process to contain the environmental hazard to the extent possible and to make the environmental and other social parameters compatible with human existence. That is what is necessary. Some point of time we used to go from one place to other in a bullock cart, which was later substituted by a horse. And now we go from one point to other in a motor car, one point to the other place in an aeroplane, or one point from the other in a railway. Now, should I say that railways and aeroplanes ought not to have been invented? It is not that. All these developments should take place, but not at the cost of environment. That is the issue. If greeneries are to be depleted, compensatory greeneries ought to be brought into existence. That is the issue. When we are holding wireless telephony, I am today conducting this lecture through a mobile telephone. What is enabling me? It is 4G, fourth generation of transmission. Soon, maybe later this year or early next year, the transition from fourth generation to fifth generation would be made. Now, at what cost? Cost is that a large number of birds have already ceased its existence. How and why? This is something which needs to be borne in mind, and how CSR initiatives are being incorporated to the extent possible, I am now explaining. Let me tell you that the radio frequency has a standard. This standard is set by a body, a global body called IEEE, that is IEEE. Now, why is such body as IEEE in existence? Ideally, if 4G transmission is to be effected all over the state of West Bengal, say for example, only 5 to 6 towers would have been sufficient. But now we operate with not less than around 5,000 towers within the state of West Bengal. The exact number is a little more. Why? Because the quality and the dynamics of the radio transmission needs to be regulated and moderated. Why is this needed? Had this not been in place, what would have happened? Nothing much. There would have been the power of radio transmission would be much, much higher, but you would not have found any human being to use it. What do I mean by that? Almost all of you would have been afflicted with cancer and would have been dead. but the technology would have been in place for dead persons to be used. So, leaving aside what is happening to the birds, even human beings are so susceptible to radio frequencies, which are never taken into consideration, or rather I should say which were never taken into consideration. Now, in addition to the scientific aspects, what these companies are now being forced to do, who have the pan-India presence or large area of operation, they need to make good for the wrongs that are being, the supposed wrongs that are being committed, and without which human lives now might not exist, given the pace of technology and the pace and the evolution of the change of work culture. That specific purpose-oriented expenditures are required to be made to the extent that the results are there for all to see. For example, if a tower is set up, if a ground tower, which is called GBT, ground-based tower, are to be set up, it is to be seen that it is set up amidst sufficient greeneries, so that many of the emissions are absorbed by the grain effect. When a dye manufacturing unit is to be set up, it needs to be set up in a place within whose close vicinity there should not be any place for any agricultural production. These are basic issues, and not only that, the company needs to spend substantial amount on various aspects of social responsibility elements, so that the company's existence is not only synonymous with its products alone. The company becomes synonymous with its larger social duties, which ultimately goes back to the company in a different manner. For example, let me tell you, if a soap manufacturing company comes into existence, it will be having its social impact as well. People working over there will not only be consuming the same quality of soap, it will be consuming, or rather contributing, the development of soap industry in general, because not all persons would be using the same quality of soap. And with the rise in income, with the rise in the quality of education, with the enhancement of other social parameters for living, consumption of other aspects will also increase. Earlier, it was felt that the companies would be doing it on its own, making them to comply in a mandatory manner was something unheard of, because it never really came within the domain of company's expertise or its domain of existence. With the passage of time, all through the world, it was felt that the companies are earning trillions of dollars, but their spend, or rather the recycling of money, is not only minuscule, it is almost nil. That is why a thought process evolved. The thought process was in existence constitutionally, but it was felt that it was not enough. A legislative sanction, a legislative compulsion ought to be imputed, otherwise it would be extremely difficult to not only regulate, to not only make the company liable. The effects of CSR initiatives would become extremely difficult to perceive. The difference that has been made since the last 5 years of its existence are extremely visible if you visit any large factories in and around West Bengal alone. Primary schools have been refurbished, public toilets have been put in existence, and that is how the fundamental duties, after all, even a corporate citizen is primarily a juristic person. He has fundamental duties towards his society, towards his state to perform. This is the basis of the constitutional empowerment behind incorporation of Section 135 in Companies Act, which needs to be read with the Companies CSR Rules 2014 as well as Schedule 7 of Companies Act. Hopefully, by highlighting these aspects, I have been able to make my dear students understand the various dynamics that are at work relating to corporate social responsibility and its constitutional connect. I will not prolong my lecture long. It's almost been 45 minutes, though we have started late. And I would be very happy if the students raises question one by one, not in tandem, please.
Professor Mukherjee, thank you so much, first and foremost, for that wonderful lecture, taking us back to the inception of CSR and giving us the entire, in entirety, the picture of what it means and the volume of it. Thank you so much. Professor Mukherjee, do you have any questions, or do you want to?
I don't, yes, I don't find any questions on the chat box really, but sir, since Andrila ma'am, I take this opportunity from you to interact with sir on this online platform. Mr. Banerjee, your deliberation has actually highlighted the practical side of the story, where we find that there are laws, but there is no appropriate, enforcement mechanism or the will amongst us. I use the word us because corporates, public, we are all part of the society. So do you think that having laws is actually not helping us with anything until and unless we have that consensus will, that drive within us to actually try to promote or protect the environment? Ultimately, these laws actually will be of no use. And if the answer is in the positive, practical suggestions from you, how do you think that we can actually bolster ourselves towards protecting the environment?
Before I answer this question, there was a question from Shoumi Banerjee as well.
Yes.
Who
is CSR a long-term strategy?
Right. I'll be answering both.
Okay.
First of all, you see, India, as I know, is mocked at by many of the scholars from the West, with whom I have a very limited opportunity of interaction. Most of them say that India is an over-legislated country with very little compliance. Now, that is something which, being on this side of administration, I would not like to comment. But what I would be highlighting, first of all, that the aspect of CSR primarily is a long-term strategy, and it is an apparently new concept which has been incorporated in the law. And in order to get the net result of the same, we need to wait at least 2 decades, because the CSR initiatives, most of which are being implemented in remote villages, it is indeed very difficult to evaluate the exact social advantages or the environmental advantages which we are getting in return. Let me give you an example. There is a type of industry. There are 2 types of industry which I must say. One relates to the chip making, CHIP, which is a must talked about thing. And another is the making of carbon black. Both can cause immense pollution, but we cannot live without it. Now, when the companies are commencing operation, these companies, many of the companies are not very old in vintage. So when they are commencing operation, and after some time, they are commencing their CSR initiatives by building up schools, health centers, planting trees, and all these aspects. The social impact needs to be evaluated at least 2 decades later, because unless and until a child who has been educated in such schools or who has availed of the health facilities grow up sufficiently, we come to know of its advantages. Now, as regards the question that how far sustainability is, that is why I highlighted this aspect of Article 51A. Whenever I interact with the students, I make it a point to highlight this issue of Article 51A, which I also would be requesting all the academics to go through, all the academics to have a different perspective, rather a new meaning of Article 51A, because what you need to do, we never follow. There is a common joke amongst ourselves. When we speak of others, we are their judge. And when we speak of ourselves, we are always advocates. Now, what others are doing, how it can be done, can always begin with you. If you see that something is not being done the way it is to be done, the least you can do is raise a voice. That is how Bachpan Bachao Andolan came into its present character. That was how this campaign in Mumbai gained momentum, called Bell Bajao. Hopefully, all of you know all these things much better. So the responsibility primarily begins with you and me alone, far less others. At least the least we can do is raise a voice. And you know what impact it can make? I will be dealing with a very, very recent yesterday's incident. A cafe owner was assaulted. The matter was put on social media. Law took its own course within hours. We can make a change, which we don't want to. All of us are despondent. Kichu hobe na. But why not be a little bit optimistic? Why not all of us contribute to give a new meaning to Article 51A? When I remember long back, when a particular government had to be dismissed, K.R. Narayan was the president. He made a very cryptic comment. Today is the day when we must ponder over a matter whether the Constitution has failed us or we have failed the Constitution. This voluminous document is not failing us. We are failing the Constitution. We must think in such a manner. That is what I will be requesting everybody. A question had come regarding Calcutta being the most polluted city. Now, this is something which I hear wherever I go, whether I go as a lecturer, wherever I go as an audience, and when they hear that I am the registrar of NGT, and NGT's Eastern Zonal Bench is in Kolkata. For the information of all, Eastern Zonal Bench doesn't deal with Kolkata alone. We have 13 states under our jurisdiction. That is under the jurisdiction of Eastern Zone Bench. Kolkata might come under the 50 polluted cities, but my dear student, be rest assured that we are equal and we are much less in pollution when the element of pollution is counted amongst many of these so-called cities, so-called developed cities of developed countries. And situations cannot change. What do you do with the toner that you use and that is past its expiry date, may I ask you? Have you on your own discarded the use of plastics altogether? How do you know how plant compost, that is plant manure, can be prepared from home waste? What do you do for such a thing? If I may put these questions, I would have loved, and I will still love, to have a direct interaction with the students. The corona is on its downslide, and anytime, if possible, I am available to go and interact with my dear students directly on this issue. The person, the concerned student who is putting this question to me, that Calcutta is one of the polluted cities, comes within the first 50 list of polluted cities, I would be putting this question to him, that yesterday's leftover food, leftover vegetables, the orange peels or the peeling of the layers of a potato, what has he done for that? He could have recycled it. What was his level of awareness? He is attending this meeting today. I know since he is attending, I should be presuming that he is an aware citizen. A student of a prestigious university like Sister Nivedita University. So an aware citizen like him, instead of putting this question to me, it would have been better if you would have highlighted how he was preparing compost with this and planting saplings at least once every 6 months. Even in the small terrace that he has, or a small balcony that he has, or the bedroom, indoor plants are also there. Whether he has done so? Is he aware of the e-waste rules? What he has done with the mobiles which he is not using? Is he aware about the SAR value of a mobile?
So very
These are
pertinent
issues which we
questions.
need to be aware.
Yes.
Right.
And, sir, you have actually, in such a lucid manner, you have so rightly pointed out how we, as people of the society, in our little ways, can actually bring about a change in our environment. There is another question that one of the students has pointed out. She says that, sir, as a lawyer, what do you think is our responsibility towards CSR, towards the society and our nation, standing in the shoes of an advocate?
Now, can I see the face of the students who has been asking this question?
Trinayani, I think you need to unmute your video.
And please put me in the same window if possible. Trinayani.
Yes,
You are not visible.
Sir, can you see?
Almost a black and white picture I get here.
Sorry, sir.
Trinayani, are you a lawyer by profession? Or you intend to be a lawyer?
She's going to be a lawyer.
She's going to be a lawyer.
Yes.
How do you know that she's going to be a lawyer and she's not going to join a job or become a judicial officer like me?
Maybe that is
now let me tell you
that she wants to become an advocate, not a lawyer, but to be more precise in the statement, as an advocate. She wants to join the bar. Yes.
Right. Right. Now, if you are willing to become a lawyer, I had been a lawyer for 13 long years. Then I appeared for the higher judicial examination. I was not successful in the first 2 attempts. Let me be absolutely candid. I was successful in the 3rd attempt. And now I am here before you. Now, let me tell you something. Becoming an activist is easier said than done because financial implications are there. If you wish to espouse the cause of CSR, aspire to become somebody like Indira Jaising. But if you wish to become a lawyer of eminence, that is the first thing you should aspire, because ultimately at the court, it would be your duty to argue for your client and get relief for your client. So profit motive will always be there, but it needs to be seen how you are balancing the greater welfare of society with your individual profit motive. This balancing act is extremely important, which you must know from the very beginning. And if you need to become an activist, there are ways of earning, but in a different way. But definitely then earning from advocacy by itself might take a back seat. So this is just for your level of awareness. I make you aware that you do have a great role to play, provided you choose to become an activist. That way, whichever way you want to do, that advice can be given to me on a one-to-one interaction, because it is not for everybody to know, because there are multifarious ambitions and everybody might not be consuming the advice what I need to tell you. But this is the way of putting it, which I think we will be able to appreciate the larger picture.
Sir, there is
Professor Mukherjee, over to you.
Yes, there is another question which has been put forward by Arup Mukherjee. Is there any nodal agency which regulates CSR? And how do we distribute the resources rather than having concentrated development in some and not in others?
This has to be answered in 2 ways. Arup Mukherjee, if I hear the name correctly, is it Arup?
Yes.
Arup, let me tell you this thing, that primarily the CSR initiatives, though it needs to be taken on a field level, but it is regulated on a paper level, I mean documentation level, which is looked after by the MCA, that is the Ministry of Companies Affairs. But it does have a clause relating to environment, and each state has a state pollution control board which looks after the entire gamut of pollution related issues, be it e-waste, be it biomedical waste, be it air pollution, be it wildlife pollution, forest cover depletion. All aspects are looked after by state level pollution control boards, which is also supplemented by the efforts of Central Pollution Control Board. Hopefully you have got my answer.
Thank you, sir. I don't find any further questions in the chat box. Over to you, Indrila ma'am.
Thank you. That was indeed, as Professor Mukherjee said, in such a lucid manner, in such a simple way, explained the entire thing, and rather questions after questions, and he tackled it really well in very lucid terms. Thank you so much. Even a layman like me could understand. Thank you. Then again, and of course, thanks to Professor Mukherjee for that. Coming to the end of the program now, we have with us our OSD to Chancellor, Pradut Kumar Vishwash. Of course, he has years of experience as the GMD of HITCO and been in the government organization. I'm sure he must have encountered something in the field, and we would love to hear his experience. I would ask Sir to wrap this up and give a final note to our evening today. Sir, over to you.
Am I audible?
Yes, absolutely. Audible and visible.
Thank you, Mr. Banerjee, for your delivering good lecture on the role of CSR and environment, environmental aspects. It will be gross injustice if I don't admit that you're a very, very good teacher.
I am honored and humbled.
Because in addition to your legal profession, what I have witnessed during my course of journey in service, that who are the lawyers? Lawyers are always quoting the sections, articles, rules, etc. Instead of quoting articles, sections, rules, you have described in a lucid manner so that it is comprehensible to the students. Thank you very much, first. Number two, which attracts me very much, that is, you have highlighted Article 51A. I am telling you, honestly, I am confessing that I attended so many seminars, workshops on environment and CSR during my tenure in government service. Nobody has quoted the Article 51, where it has been laid down that every citizen, that is 136 crores of people, every citizen has a duty. Actually, this is the point which our students should bear in mind, what he has told in detail whenever he was explaining Article 51AG. So it attracts me very much. Moreover, you are citing the example of environment and other incidents also. It attracted very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I am honored here.
Asking one question. Not question, just in one line or two lines you can cover. That is corporate social responsibility. You have already explained that social responsibility is for 136 crores of people, including people, BPL. It's the duty of every citizen. It covers everything. But even then, CSR is there in the Companies Act, 2013. Okay. So it covers the companies only, isn't it? Although we know that tax and societies, their responsibilities are there, but that was not clearly spelled out in Societies Registration Act or Indian Trust Act. Yeah. So that should be there, I think. Another point. The CSR will cover the companies only. So you know it very well, a major portion of self-employed people are there. So many individual professionals are there. They are left out. Can you throw any light on this code so that they can be?
Yes.
They can be.
What you wanted to say, I mean, you said little, but you practically opened a Pandora's box relating to questioning. I should be thankful to you. The reason, let me tell you, that in order the task
It's not audible.
Yeah, I think there is a network issue on his side.
Yes, probably there is. But he's not disconnected yet, so he might try. Let's just wait for 5 minutes.
Mr. Banerjee has joined us, I think.
No,
Yes.
he was already there, but now he left, I think. He's trying to.
So this could be recorded, that vote of thanks with a question.
No, actually, Mr. Banerjee is not audible now.
He's not there, actually.
He kind of got disconnected.
I think Pradutta had it in his mind to ask it by himself. I mean, had he raised his hand, I would have definitely allowed him to ask.
Now, Mr. Banerjee joined. Unmute. Mr. Banerjee joined.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yes. Am I audible now?
Yeah, you are audible.
Now, for the purpose of regulating the other aspects, the local panchayat, the state government were sufficiently empowered. But for example, say for example, XYZ company having operations in 5 states. Now, a central legislation is needed to regulate it. But if a self-help group, it is never expected to operate in more than 1 state. It is expected to operate in either 5 or 6 village panchayat areas.
Right.
For that regulation, the power vested with under the West Bengal Panchayat Act or any state level Panchayat Act is sufficient, because after all, its capacity to pollute, its capacity to cause any social harm is also minuscule. But same is not the aspect in respect of companies which has large operation. For that, the company ought to be made responsible. For example, let me give you an example. There was this particular store selling garments and sourcing them from many of the weavers cooperatives. Now, in order to augment their profit, what they used to do, they used to print the plastic bags themselves. The garments used to be sold under one brand name, right? Now, anywhere any problem was being faced, that was being passed on to the weavers cooperatives, and the company was getting away. The time this company remained registered under the Companies Act, and this 135 has been given effect to, now this company has discarded printing of plastic bags and have gone to the paper bags. How far paper bag is good, or the eternal debate that whether it is causing loss of plantation or not, that is another thing. But after all, a paper bag is a biodegradable one. So these aspects needs to be taken into consideration. So this is where the difference is being made. Hopefully, if you wish, you can ponder about the matter and you will see the greater picture. This is how the greater picture works.
Right. Thank you very much.
With my little knowledge, I have tried to highlight it.
No. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any more?
I mean, local government, entire social responsibility is the responsibility of the local government. So,
yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Act is required.
Now, anyone?
Required. Only for effective. Many thanks.
Right.
We are really thankful to you, and our students are enriched by your explanation and incidents We have interpreted with incidents. It was very good.
Right.
Thank you very much. Once again, I admit
Thank
that you're a very good teacher in addition to your normal profession as a legal person.
I feel very honored and humbled hearing this from a person like you. We hope to meet soon.
And we second that.
And
Yes, wonderful session.
Ms. Mukherjee, I would be liking to hear the feedbacks of the students where I need to improve, where I have been able to excel and where I need to improve. That has been my defects.
I can't seem to find any flaws, and you're just the perfect teacher. That is what my take back is. But I'm sure the students would also say the same, that it was a wonderful session. We've come to learn so much. And a big thank you to, of course, Mr. Banerjee for being with us. We had thought this would be a 1 hour session, but it went on for 1.5 hours, and it could still go on from what I
And yeah, look at the chat box. Look at the chat box. Everybody is saying thank you,
We
sir.
had an
Thank you, sir.
informative session. And before we, Indrila ma'am, before you go further, sir, you are very close to us, so we will definitely be inviting you to our campus for a physical interaction with our students,
Exactly.
where we can actually go on for a few, stretched longer hours of discussion where we can
Absolutely.
actually gain
Absolutely.
quality education from you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Indrila ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you. Big thanks to all of you, to the Vice Chancellor, of course, and Professor Mukherjee and OSD sir, and of course, last but not least, to Mr. Banerjee and to our wonderful students who've been there throughout, very interactive audience. Thank you so much, and we, as Professor Mukherjee, we hope to see you soon in our campus.
That is big. Give a big hand to him. The students all unmute everybody. Unmute everybody. Unmute everybody and let's give a big hand.
I think they will be able to unmute themselves.
No, madam. So let's unmute.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Switch on your cameras.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All of you can switch on your camera. We can take a photograph together.
Yes, switch on your cameras. Dear students, it would be good to see all of you. I can't, producer, you have to maybe switch on your camera. I would like to take a shot. Noemi raised the question. Can you switch on your camera?
Dutta, what happened?
Hello.
Switch on your camera. Yeah. Amita, Srimoyi, Shuprabha, Sanjay, Sonal, Parijat, Marlene, Orijit, Israj, everybody should.
Ishraj?
Yes, ma'am.
Switch on the camera, everyone. VC sir wants to, he has given a really good proposal that we should all come together, have a photo, and also thank our resource person of the day.
Yes.
Yes. So please take the photograph. On video.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Banerjee.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, VC sir. Thank you, Ina ma'am.
Most welcome. Most welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to the audience, of course, and hope to see you soon. Ma'am, if you can.
Sudev, would you leave?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes, you can leave. We are just waiting for the buffer.